All right, everyone. Thanks so much for being here. My name is Maddie. I'm the host of Truth Matters podcast, and I am partnering with Lisa, Buddhist Biohacker, to introduce her amazing Quantum Feminine event at the end of this month. And I am joined today by Michele Snelling. And today we are going to introduce Michelle's topic for the event because she's going to be a part of that and just dive into more how Michelle's topic relates to the divine feminine and what led her to choose it. So thank you, Michele, for being here. I'm really happy to talk to you today.
No, yes, Maddie. Thank you so much. First of all, for doing this to support the summit because I believe it's so important. And then for having me on the show, I'm so excited to be with you.
Yay, thank you. I'm excited too. I've really enjoyed getting to know you better over this past little while. And yeah, I'm just excited to do this collaboration. So thank you.
Yeah, such that we happen to live in the same city.
I know, like 15 minutes away from each other. It's kind of fun. It's so great.
It's
awesome.
wonderful.
Yeah. So Michele, tell us a little bit about your background. You are a very gifted intuitive, and I understand that you offer readings to people in terms of helping people find more guidance and tuning into that higher wisdom in their own life. But you're also an aromatherapist, and I think that it's just an amazing healing modality right now. So tell us a little bit about that, and then how that ties into your topic for the summit as well.
Okay, so, well, I call myself the accidental aromatherapist because I never thought that I would do this. I'm allergic. I'm very sensitive. So I thought I was allergic to all scent. So I've basically lived fragrance free for years. And then I realized through just all of this chain of events that I actually can use scents as long as they're the highest quality scents. Then I don't have a reaction, and they actually really work well with me. And so, and I loved it because it was kind of a natural progression. I've always been pretty natural in my way that I handle health issues and things like that. Even before I became an aromatherapist, I was just naturally drawn to, natural alternatives. And so this was just like the next perfect step for me with the oils and the salts and everything. And I found that they helped me. It helped me with depression, first of all. I had a long history of depression, and especially after I had my daughter, I experienced a lot of postpartum that didn't occur until about 6 months after I had her. Between 4 and 6 months, which I did not know that was even possible. And none of my healthcare providers were even acknowledging that might be related to, my pregnancy and birth and everything. And so I figured it out on my own and used some natural things. And then, and they helped a little, they helped, but it just kind of compounded. And then when I found out I could use aromatherapy, high quality oils, I created a blend that I had no idea it was for depression, but it is.
Whoa.
And I just started using it in not even on me. I just started smelling it. I made a bath salt with this combination of orange, lime, and grapefruit, and I would just smell it all day. And it was helping me so much. It was lifting those heavy feelings. I was feeling lighter, and I actually call it invigorate because that's what I felt. I just felt like this infusion of happiness and joy and invigoration throughout my body. And I started thinking there's a lot more to this than we think there is. These smell great, but that's just this much of it. That's the tip of the iceberg. So I started that way. And because I am intuitive, I'm an intuitive medium. That came first, I should say that.
Right.
Me being an intuitive and a medium, that was there my whole life. But I started doing it professionally. And then this ability that I have to create these recipes for these scents, these aromatherapy products, that came through as I started working with people. I made that first one that I didn't realize was for depression, but it is. And then I needed something to clear my space that I was working in because I was feeling residual energy from all sorts of people and my clients and practitioners and everything. And so I needed something to clear the space. And sage is wonderful. Palo Santo is wonderful, but it's not very convenient. And I knew like the owner of the store is not going to want me saging all the time and in between all my clients and everything. And that's not easy. And it's like it's not quick.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, maybe I can make something that'll help to clear the energy. And that was my second blend that I created called Clear. And it's just kind of, really grown from there. And what I love is that I'm able to combine the intuitive with the products, not only in creating the recipes, but in recommending for people. So I can tune in to your energy, a person's energy, and tune right into their chakras and see what's going on and where there's, some blockage or stuckness or whatever, and know what will help them. And this is really important because oftentimes what we need won't address it. We don't need to address the symptom that we're experiencing at the moment. Oftentimes it's something else that's, kind of underneath it all that needs to be addressed that will then help that.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful journey.
Yeah, it has been spectacular. I mean, nothing that I am doing, I never expected myself to do this. I never even dreamed of it. But now that I'm here, it's like I pinch myself on the regular. Like, is this really my life that I get to do this and connect with people and do this, what I believe is very important work.
Yeah.
And the mediumship is, just so important. And especially in these times, I feel, when it's really easy to feel disconnected because we've been in isolation. We feel disconnected, whether we understand it or not. And this is not a commentary about masks, pro or against. It's simply a statement of the masks help us to feel more isolated.
Yeah.
Because we don't have that full personal connection that we're used to. And so, it is easy to feel isolated. And so it's important that we find the connection. And in these times, we're really craving connection with our loved ones who have passed away. So this mediumship is just really, it's really an honor. It's my most honored thing that I do because it's very personal. When somebody allows me into that space, like it's vulnerable as well. And I've been opening to different, all this is leading into my my portion of the summit. So this year of 2021 has really been a year of self-discovery for me. And I thought 2020 was, but boy, I had no idea like what was coming. And just opening to new ways and new, just being open to wherever spirit wants to lead me rather than me, being in control or whatever.
Yeah.
And what has happened this year, it started at the beginning of the year and has just continued as I've been having visitations during sleep with children. And these have been children children that need help, children that have passed away, children that are going to pass away. And some of these children have been children that I know personally or children of people that I know personally. And so that's kind of how this started with my journey into this more feminine work. And so it started, and I didn't really connect the dots. And then I was in one of Lisa Gunshore, the Buddhist Biohacker, I was in one of her moon circles. And during the moon circle, I had just this incredible experience. So in the moon circle, in the meditation, she was taking us into our womb area.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And I had a realization or just an aha, like, oh my goodness, I don't have a womb. And I had a partial hysterectomy 17 years ago. And I don't know how many times I've done meditations where we've gone into the womb and never thought that. But this night, I was like, I have no womb. And I was overcome with all these emotions, grief, shame, regret, just all these things. And I was really surprised by it. And like first that I hadn't realized this in the past, right? All these times I've done this. And then the just vast amount of emotions. And so I knew that this was like a pivotal point. I knew this was big. And I had also been having a lot of connection with Mary, Mother Mary, for a few months before this. And so during a meditation the next day, my own meditation, she came in and she's like, this is new work you're going to be doing. And, then I really started having more connection with these children. And I realized that my work is going to go in that realm of working with women to heal their second chakra.
I see.
So,
wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so, all these months, and I've really just sat with it, which is new for me, because normally when I get an intuitive idea in the past, when I would get an idea or I know that I need to do this, I'm like, let's go, let's get this out. Like in the past, if I would have had that experience on the meditation, I would have had something out within 2 weeks or 3 weeks, And this time I'm just like, no, this just needs to sit. It just needs to come into the physical more. I don't know if that makes sense, but
it does.
From this more into this embodied. Right? And so I've just been really, really patient with it, which I love. And then when Lisa asked me to be part of the summit, I'm like, okay, this is the time that it's, all this work that I've done on myself, all this work I've done with women who are in grief for different reasons. And I do believe we are all in grief, one degree or another. And then it just became clear that this is like these emotional chastity belts that we all have.
Interesting.
Energetic chastity belts that we've either allowed to be placed within us, maybe through our DNA, right? Through our lineage, because our grandmothers had them, our aunts, whoever, or we in past lives, if you want to ascribe to that.
Right.
Or we've placed them there ourselves out of a mode of protection. Right?
Right.
This is what this quantum feminine feels like to me. Like it's time for us to really go deep and understand what it is to be feminine and the strength that that it houses, because we tend to not think of it as strength, right? We tend to think as the yang as the strength, the masculine as the strength, but there is so much incredible strength being a woman, all that we go through, having a cycle every month is not an easy thing to do sometimes.
It's painful for a lot of women.
It is.
Yeah.
So, and just, it's been really interesting to me because my experiences with, just my pregnancies and things like that and wanting to do things more naturally and holistic led me to some practices like hypnobirthing and things like that, that actually I learned a lot in that has helped me with this, unlocking my energetic chastity belt within myself, So.
Wow. So when you say energetic chastity belt, what does that mean to you? Can you elaborate on that?
Yes. So just like, a chastity belt that we hear about, right, from the medieval times, which interestingly enough, that's kind of a myth. They can't really find any chastity belts that date to that period. There's mention of it, but the actual chastity belts that they have now are from the 18th century. Okay. Or the 19th century, actually, the 1800s. Those are the first. And those were used to keep women from masturbating. Okay.
Oh.
The original chastity belt that was talked about in the medieval times, like the 14th and 15th century, around then, they were referred to kind of in a joking manner that the knights were going to put these on their women to keep them pure while they went off to battle.
Oh my, wow. Okay. Because I've heard that term before, but I didn't know that it had that kind of historical background.
Yes.
That's kind of funny. Okay.
And they literally are, like, back in the 19th century, they're metal, you know,
Oh, wow.
and they lock on and somebody has the key, right?
Oh my, wow.
And you're literally imprisoned. That part of you is imprisoned so that you're not free to even do your normal bodily function, right? I mean, it makes it a challenge.
Mhm.
And so when we think about that, you know, whether the purpose was to keep women pure, you know, to keep them from, you know, soiling themselves, you know, with masturbating, or like now they're used in these modern times. People use them to keep themselves chaste. They're used as celibacy tools. Okay. They're also used in some, like, oh, what is that called? Let me see. BDSM, like, you know, these sexual ritual things that people engage in, like sadomasochism and stuff like that. Just, you know, bondage and dominatrix and all that, right? So people use them. But however you use them, the actual physical chastity belt is a barrier, right? It's a barrier between the person that has a chastity belt on and their freedom to express themselves, right?
Interesting.
And to be the full human. And that's really what I think, whether we're talking about the divine feminine or the divine masculine, we're sexual beings. That's part of us as humans. You know, we think of ourselves as spiritual beings and human beings. And that sexual side of us is kind of the combination of the two, right? It's where we get to express our highest self in the physical.
Yeah.
But it's been divided. That's not how we talk about it, right? We don't talk about it that way. We talk about it as purely a human act. And there's a lot of charge around it, around being sexual, you know. When we're not comfortable talking about that. We're really not. It's like, ooh, that's private. That's for behind closed doors. And absolutely, but we don't want to be ashamed of that part of us. And that's what I feel is why we need to have this, you know, unblocking of this energetic chastity belt, because there is so much shame around our sexuality, especially as women, right?
Interesting. Yeah. And one word that I noticed you used a few times was express and expression. Because yes, it is about our physicality, right? Our sexuality, but it also is linked to creation and expression. And there are lots of ways to express and create, not just sex, obviously. So I think in having all of ourselves, like you said, being completely free within the human experience, including that part, and now allows us to express just more fully in general, would you say?
Oh, beautifully said, Maddie. Yes, exactly. I mean,
Mhm.
it is, because it is creation, like you said. It's expression, it's all of it. And there's such this cloud of shame around it.
Right.
And we've, like I said, we've incorporated this energetic chastity belt, whether it be from our lineage or ourselves. Maybe it's protection, right? Maybe we're putting it there for protection because we don't feel safe as sexual beings, or we don't feel safe. Maybe we've had abuse or inappropriate, you know, things, and we're not comfortable with it. We're afraid of it, right? We can put it there for safety and protection, but at the end of the day, that's not safety. That's not protection. You know, we want to be empowered. We want to be empowered women, not just sexually, but
Yeah.
in all ways. And I think when we don't feel empowered in one area, it affects us in all areas.
Yeah.
Right?
I think you're right. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think as women too, another maybe motivator to keep that part of ourselves really protected, I think, is also maybe fear of being perceived only in that way, because the world can portray sexuality in a very base, lower consciousness way a lot of times, you know, in the media and movies and lots of different things, right? And so I think maybe even as little girls we see that, and that even just that portrayal might make us feel unsafe because it
Yes.
doesn't feel pure. It makes us feel, oh, maybe objectified or less than in some way too.
Yes.
So, mhm.
Absolutely. And it doesn't feel authentic, right?
Yeah.
Because authenticity is not objectified. It's not forced. It's just natural. It just flows, right? And
Mhm.
so I remember when I can't remember how old my daughter was, but and you know, this is, I don't know if this is right or wrong. It does, I don't like to label stuff, but it's just how I felt at the time. But when Britney Spears came out with her "Hit Me Baby One More Time" video,
Mm.
and my daughter was pretty young at the time, I believe, I was just like sad
Yeah.
because I'm looking at this beautiful girl who's got talent and she's young and was sexualized.
Mhm.
And it's like all I could think of was what repercussions that was going to have on her, right?
Mhm.
And what it was teaching all these other girls. Like,
Mm.
this is how you want to be portrayed. This is how you'll be famous. This is how you'll get noticed. This is how all these things that are so unhealthy, you
Mm.
know, and that we want to be able to see them, but not take them in, right? But we haven't been taught that. And that's part of the thing. You know, I believe that at the basis of our chastity, our energetic chastity belt, is the shame and the grief and the guilt. Okay.
Mm.
Those three keep us imprisoned more than anything.
Mm.
And so when we have that, when we have those emotions, they're heavy.
Yeah.
And this is the important part. We're not taught what to do with those emotions.
Interesting.
I believe that grief is the most misunderstood emotion. One of them, one of the biggest that we have. We're not taught to grieve. We're taught grief is, you know, you get this much time. Like
Yeah.
somebody close in your family dies, you get a week off of work, right? So
Yeah.
you
Mhm.
better do all your grieving within that week and be done and ready to go back into the real world. But that's
Mhm.
not the reality of it. That's not how grief is. And so we shove these emotions, right? And they're emotions. And our second energy center, right where that chastity belt is housed, is all about emotion and flow, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
and it's water, right? It's our water element that you know, governs that area of our body. And the thing with water is when water doesn't flow, there's two issues. Either it's stagnant and becomes stinky and toxic, which often results in physical ailments, right? Because we're not dealing with it. Or there's so much water that there's an explosion.
Mm.
But either way, we're not comfortable with our emotions. And that's at the base of this. So, you know, people they don't know how to grieve. They don't know what to do with it. I have a dear friend who lost her mother recently, and she expressed that she's doesn't know. She's so confused because she had a breakdown. She heard a song and had a breakdown, and it shocked her. She had to leave work. She's never had to leave work in all of her history of working, you know,
Yeah.
because of something like this. But she had to leave work, yet she feels strong. And it's like, it's not doesn't mean the absence of the other. And grief has its own journey, and that's part of what I believe is this issue with us with these, you know, our energetic chastity belts.
Mhm. It's really interesting too. You've mentioned shame and guilt. And I think that those two emotions are maybe, the number one tools for control. Because if we're ashamed and if we feel guilty, we feel subservient, we feel less than, we feel incapable, our power is stripped away. So I think sexuality has definitely been a tool for, people to gain control, whether that's an institution or a partner. And it can go both ways as well. I think that men can feel that too, obviously. So really
Absolutely.
interesting. The distortion there is really profound.
And that, again, Maddie, you're so wise, because that is the guilt and the shame are control mechanisms. And then when we have immense guilt and shame, that creates grief, because the guilt and shame keep us from being our authentic self.
Right.
They keep us from trusting our intuition, which is our birthright. Right. Yeah. And so we grieve not being connected to our true self or listening to it or trusting it. So it's just like this big mishmash of emotions, right?
Yeah.
That are tightly woven, and we have to unravel it. And that's what we're going to do on the summit.
That's great.
During my time is start this unraveling process, right? So that we can really ascend to that quantum feminine that we're being called to, because it is different. It's different.
That's beautiful. That's a really, really good intention, I think. And there's also a lot of rewiring that needs to be done and that can be done around purity, and realizing that there can be purity within sexuality. There could be a lack of it, absolutely, but they can also be present in it as well. And so I think that if we can acknowledge that and realize that there is a higher consciousness to everything, including sex, that's going to offer a lot of healing as well. Because then we're not completely shunning something from our life and deeming it bad, right? Because that labeling of good and bad is also damaging as well.
Absolutely. And I talk about that all the time. Like, let's not even label stuff as good and bad. Let's just label it as it is. And the purity within the sexuality, as I said, that's part of our higher self. That's our human and our higher self coming together. And it's all about intention. Our intention is what makes it pure or impure, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And it is just, there's a lot of rewiring, reprogramming, relearning. Right? Yeah. And honestly, it's just remembering. It's just clearing the emotional clutter so that we can remember who we are, who we were born to be.
I agree. And I think that when we do clear that clutter, we still have lots to learn as human beings, as a species, but when we do clear that clutter away, I think, like we've been talking about, what will be the result is actually quite natural. So we'll know how to proceed. We'll know how to approach things in a pure, heart-centered way, because it will be natural. And we'll realize that all the things that are kind of force-fed to us, even as children, is what is not natural. So hopefully, as we do that inner work and inner purification of ourselves, the answers will just be more clear, I think, in general.
Yes. Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah. And we had, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, yes.
I just wanted to read a quick comment here from Claire, the Raven Witch. She says, if there is an inability to honor, accept, and explore our sensuality, it will be evident in every aspect of our lives, from our self-esteem to our mental health and our creative expression. Which, again, it's what we've been talking about, how everything is connected. And if we want to feel, it's all right. Yeah. Especially in our creative expression and our capacity to feel whole. So that's a great comment.
Yes. Thank you, Claire. And, speaking to that, I want to just add one more element to this that was interesting as I've been sitting with all of this, all these months. And, I believe that the divine has just been sending information to me as I've needed it, and led me to look at certain things. And one thing that I found that is so interesting, because I'm fascinated by this, I've been fascinated by this for a while, is the women and thyroid issues, because women historically have a lot of thyroid issues. And I myself know a lot of women personally that have thyroid issues. Okay. And so like 20 million people in the US are affected by thyroid issues, they say, men and women. but 1 in 8 women will have a thyroid issue in her life. Okay. And women are 5 to 8 more times likely to have a thyroid issue than men, which is so interesting to me. And it's like, why? We know this, but why? And so what I found that just kind of blew my mind and connected all the dots is that when an embryo is forming and it's becoming a female, right? The ovaries and the let me say this. I want to make sure that I get this right. The vocal cords and the ovaries are a single organ. I thought that's what it was, but I wanted to make sure. But they are a single organ. And they're all connected, and it replicates like the cervix and the vulva and things like that. Okay, so it looks like that. Then as the embryo grows and forms and develops, they separate. But they're absolutely connected at the time of that, were created, and women and girls, female. And so we cannot separate the connection between the energetic chastity belt and our, throat chakra issues, our inability to speak and communicate and really understand our authentic self. Right?
Wow, I didn't know that. Yeah.
Yeah. So very interesting, I think, that they're both connected. It's like, no wonder we have so many thyroid issues, right?
Yeah.
That's connected to this core issue of our second energy center. And, most women have, not most, but a lot of women have had abuse or inappropriate behavior of some sort, or they've been, had something happen in that realm. And so, we want to really be aware of it. We want to be aware of that connection.
Mhm.
And that it all just really is connected, whether we can see it with our human mind or not. It really is.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And it's amazing, I think, too, how it all just comes back to love, because I think the ultimate expression and form of love, well, at least in physicality, right? Potentially, sex can be, right? If taken to that higher consciousness and desire to not only have union with your partner, but union, like you were saying, with your higher self, because sex does have the potential to be that. I think that's why it's been targeted so much, because it is a tool to connect with the divine. It is a tool to connect with our higher self. So that's just another reason why it's been targeted and misconstrued in so many different ways. So it's a lot of relearning. It's a lot of, I think, a lot of self-compassion and self-love needs to be incorporated because there is a lot of fear and a lot of pain in many, many, many people around the subject as well. So it's a process, and it's not like we're expecting everyone to just flip a switch and understand it. I think it really is a process of, more love and understanding.
Absolutely. Self-compassion. That was one message that I've been getting from Mary for months. And a lot with this work that I'm moving into is compassion.
Yeah.
Because when we have compassion, that can heal so much.
Mm-hmm.
That can work miracles.
Yeah.
We don't even realize it, right? And love and compassion, they're very closely related in my mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's just when you are exhibiting compassion, that's rooted in love. So, that you can't really have one without the other.
No.
But love is the answer. We try to look for the answer all over the place and every other way, but it all comes back to love at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Michelle. I've really enjoyed tapping into this with you a little bit, and I can't wait to hear your full talk for the Quantum Feminine event, because you're approaching this, like we were just saying, with a lot of compassion for everybody. So thanks so much for that beautiful energy that you're leading with. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Maddie, and thank you for having me here today.
Of course. And if people would like to connect with you, Michelle, and learn more about your aromatherapy, where is a good place for them to reach you and contact you?
My website is michellesnelling.com, and that's Michelle with 1 L, Snelling with 2. So easy to find me.
Okay.
And from there, they can look at products. They can also reach out to me if they would like a product recommendation or if they have questions. I do product recommendations. There's no charge, to let you know exactly what would be perfect for you for where you're at right now. So
Awesome. Great. Well, thank you so much, Michele. And everyone, there is a link to register for the Quantum Feminine event in the show notes. So we look forward to seeing you there as well. Okay. Thanks so much.
thank you, everyone.